Hi, I'd like to tell you about a series of adventure and mystery stories that I've written. Years ago, I used to tell my children mystery stories about the Arrowsmith family every night. Now, I tell them to my 4 grandchildren. I've written under the name of Robert Page, and I've posted the first set of 21 stories on Kindle and Amazon. Check the link below. I'm going to read you one of the stories, and that way you can enjoy these stories the way my grandkids do today. It was early February, and the winter up in the moors in England had been very cold and very snowy. Ezra Arrowsmith and his best friend Jeremy had just left school and were walking to Jeremy's house in the town of Hatsfield. They planned to play some video games and maybe watch some television up in the loft. Ezra, have you heard about the cat burglar? Jeremy had a big smile on his face. Then he lowered his voice. There may be one in Hatsfield. You must be joking. There's no such thing as a cat burglar. Cats can't steal things from your houses, Ezra laughed. Jeremy turned serious. There really are cat burglars, and they break into homes and steal valuables, like jewelry and gold chains. Are you kidding? Ezra stared at his friend with amazement. What makes them cat burglars is they're able to break into homes, steal stuff, and get out without anyone noticing. People say they're quiet as cats. I think burglars are amazing. Unless they steal from you, Ezra said. I suppose, Jeremy responded. They kept walking as they wondered if there were cat burglars in Hatsfield. 3 days later, the two friends were walking along Hyde Street in Hatsfield when Jeremy noticed something strange up on the roof. Look over there, Jeremy whispered as he pointed up. What are you looking at? Look at the footprints in the snow up there that go right across the whole roof of that house. I see them, Ezra answered. Here's the suspicious thing. Why would somebody walk across a roof when it's so cold and snowy? Jeremy asked. Unless it's someone who's tried to break into the house. You mean a cat burglar? Jeremy asked. Maybe, Ezra smiled. Do you think there really is a cat burglar in Hatsfield? There might be. Maybe we need to investigate and find out for sure, Ezra suggested. If there is a cat burglar in town, he could break into any house he wanted and leave without a trace. A cat burglar might also be a woman. We have to keep an open mind. Ezra nodded agreement. If there is a cat burglar, she might live in Hatsfield. We might even know her. She might work in the supermarket during the day and rob houses at night. You know what they say, she could be hiding in plain sight. Ezra, that seems a little crazy, don't you think? Who knows? Maybe not. A week later, Ezra and Jeremy were talking with 3 of their friends at school. Arnold, one of Jeremy's neighbors, asked a question. Have you heard the news? What news? Ezra asked. 2 houses have been broken into in the last week, and they have no clue who did it. Arnold was talking fast. The people who lived in the houses didn't even know they were robbed until they went to get some jewelry, and then, wham, they discovered it was missing. Ezra and Jeremy looked at each other and smiled slight smiles. And they have no idea who did it, Ezra said. None. Whoever it was got in and out of the houses without anyone knowing they were there. Arnold was almost shouting. He was so excited, telling the news. Can you imagine that? It's hard to believe, Jeremy answered. It must be a special kind of burglar. Everyone else agreed. As they were walking home, Jeremy turned to his friend. I'd sure love to find out which houses got broken into. Then you and me could investigate the crime. I think I might be able to find out, Ezra responded. How can you do that? I'll ask my dad. He knows some of the police constables pretty well. He'll probably just ask them. It's worth a try. Ezra and Jeremy had already set up their own EJ detective agency to look into suspicious activities and crimes, They loved to investigate, and if there was a mystery, all the better. Even though they were only 15, they'd already solved one crime, and they felt they were ready to solve another. When Ezra got home later that afternoon, he talked to his father. "Dad, could you do me a favor?" "Sure, son. What can I do for you?" "Can you find out which houses were broken into in the last week?" "No problem. I already know. Constable Higginbottom told me yesterday. They're both on the same street. Their addresses are 8 and 16 Grantham Close." "That's down near Jeremy's place." "Yes, it is." "Why do you want to know?" "Oh, no reason. Just Jeremy and I want to do some investigating." "Be careful. Robbers who break into homes are dangerous people. Keep your eyes open and stay safe." "We will. Don't worry." The next day, Jeremy and Ezra decided to walk past the two houses that were robbed. "Take a look at that house." Jeremy pointed to 8 Grantham Close. "There's no sign that someone broke in." "Do you mean a cat burglar did it?" Jeremy shrugged. "Could be. So a cat burglar is our best guess?" Jeremy nodded. "I think so. Let's watch out for some more robberies. If any of them look like the work of a cat burglar, we need to investigate." That night, Jeremy talked to his father about the robberies. "You know, Dad, some people are now saying there's a cat burglar in Hatsfield. It's because the robber is able to get into the house and out without anyone seeing him." "Jeremy, you've got a great imagination. We don't have a cat burglar in Hatsfield. We have a very peaceful town. We don't have any crime here. The worst thing that ever happens is someone steals a newspaper from a supermarket. Or someone might forget where she put a bracelet and say it's a robbery. Don't spend your time worrying about cat burglars." His father laughed and then picked up the newspaper and started to read it. Jeremy stood looking at his father for a good minute before he left the kitchen and went to his bedroom. He shut the door and he called Ezra. "I just talked to my dad about the cat burglar. He told me I have a great imagination," and then he laughed at the idea. We'll have to prove him wrong. I don't think anyone could doubt there's a cat burglar in Hatsfield. We've seen the evidence." "Well, we've seen some evidence. The rest is our best guess. But you and I know there's one right here in our town." Jeremy nodded agreement. 9 days later, school for Ezra and Jeremy had an early release on Friday. As they often did, the two of them walked over to Jeremy's place to hang out in his loft. It had a big television, video games, lots of movies to watch, and comfortable chairs to sit on. It had snowed in the middle of the night, but there had been no snow since then. "Let's walk past Grantham Close, just to see it," Ezra suggested. "You mean to see if there's any evidence of a cat burglar?" Jeremy asked. Ezra smiled. "There might be. We'll see." As they turned to walk along Grantham Close, which was a short dead-end street, Ezra stopped in front of number 9. "What do you see here that's unusual?" Let me see." Jeremy studied the house and the lawn covered in snow. "I see a set of footprints going up to the side window and another set of footprints leaving the same window." "Suspicious?" "Yeah, I'd say so. Why would there be a set of footprints going up to the window? If somebody lived in the house, they'd go to the front door or the back door, but not a window." Ezra nodded agreement. "I agree. Ezra, maybe you need to take a few photos on your cell phone of the footprints. Whoever made these footprints left the tread mark on their boots, from their boots. That'll help us find who made them." Just then it started to snow again. "I guess I'd better hurry up and take the photos before the footprints are covered up in snow." So Ezra took 12 photos before walking over to Jeremy's place. The next day, when Ezra arrived home from visiting a few friends, his father called him. "Ezra, come on up to my den. I have some news for you." Ezra ran up the stairs and into his father's den. "You have some news?" "Yes. There's been another break-in and robbery in town." "A robbery?" "Yes, and they don't know who did it. It's a mystery." Where was the robbery? Here's the strange thing. It's on the same street as the other robberies. Ezra looked directly at his dad. You mean Grantham Close? Yes, that's the street, number 9. Just as we suspected. We? Jeremy and me. We walked past number 9 yesterday and saw footprints going to a side window. I took some photos of the footprints in the snow with my cell phone. Can I have a look at them? Sure, here they are. Mr. Arrowsmith scrolled through all the photos and then went back to the third one, which was the clearest. Look carefully at the tread in this footprint. Ezra examined the photo carefully. Notice there's a zigzag pattern in the boot left in the snow. And in the middle of the footprint is a large R. I think the R stands for the company that manufactured the boot. And it's a size 6. Do you see the 6 in the photo? Yes. And what is the name of the manufacturer? The R stands for Resolution Foot Company. Resolution Footwear Company. So you're saying the person who broke into the house was wearing Resolution snow boots size 6. His dad nodded his head. So all we need to do is find the person who has Resolution snow boots size 6 and we'll have the robber. Yes. Now here's good news and bad news. Ezra asked the logical question. What's the good news? The good news is there aren't many people wearing Resolution snow boots because they're so expensive. And the bad news, how can you find the person with the Resolution snow boots without asking everyone in town to take their boots off to look at the tread? Oh, I see what you mean. So that's the problem we have, Mr. Arrowsmith paused for a moment. But I did get a partial list of the jewels that were stolen. Look here. He showed Ezra 8 photos of some of the jewelry stolen. I can send them to your cell phone. Wow, beautiful things. That one brooch that looks like a gold swan with diamond eyes must be worth a fortune. It's worth 10,000 pounds or $12,000 American. The woman in that house is very upset about losing it. I can imagine, but it's still going to be very difficult finding that cat burglar. Ezra turned and walked slowly out of his father's den. When he got downstairs to the kitchen, he called Jeremy. Did you hear about the robbery at number 9 Grantham Close? No, I didn't, he thought for a moment. That's the house we looked at, isn't it? Yep. And we know that the cat burglar wore Resolution snow boots size 6. But how do we find that person? You can't go all over town asking people to show us the bottom of their snow boots. I agree, but there has to be a way. For sure. I just don't know how. Okay, we'll talk later. Jeremy disconnected the call. Later that week, the two friends decided to sit on a bench outside Lou's supermarket and watch people walking by. They were going to look at the footprints left in the snow or, if they were lucky, see the bottom of people's snow boots. For 2 hours, they sat at the supermarket watching people's feet, but they didn't see anything suspicious at all. When the 2 hours were up, it started to snow, so they went up and down King Street looking for footprints of Resolution snow boots, but they found nothing. Ezra, I don't think we'll be able to find that cat burglar. It's just too tough. I'm not sure there's anyone in Hatfield with that kind of snow boot. Jeremy was very discouraged. Jeremy, I don't know either, Ezra shrugged. The next afternoon, the two friends went to the local library to do some research for a school history project. They ended up sitting at a table near the librarian's help desk. Ezra couldn't concentrate on the project. He kept thinking about the cat burglar. All of a sudden, he tapped Jeremy on the shoulder and whispered, "Look over to the librarian's help desk. Look at the boots that are sitting on the floor." I see them. One of the boots has fallen over on its side. I see that, and Jeremy's eyes opened wide. It's got a capital R on the tread. Shh, keep your voice down. That means one of the librarians may be the cat burglar, Jeremy whispered. Yes, but we need to be sure it's size 6. Think about it. How many people in a small town like Hatfield have expensive snow boots like Resolution and size 6. Jeremy whispered, "How can we find out the size of the boots?" "Leave it to me," Ezra smiled. He stood up and walked over to where the boots sat on the carpet. He dropped a paper on the floor. As he knelt down to pick it up, he looked closely at the bottom of the boot. Then he spoke up. "Oh, how could I drop my project on the floor?" When he got back to the table, he said one word, 6. Jeremy smiled. "Now we need to see if she's wearing expensive jewelry." 5 minutes later, the librarian walked past them. Ezra poked Jeremy. When she had passed, Ezra whispered to his friend, "She was wearing a gold swan brooch." He brought up the photo on his phone. "There it is. That's the one she's wearing." "We've got to tell your father now." The two of them wasted no time getting to the house of the Moores. Mr. Arrowsmith was hammering together a bookshelf in his woodworking shop in the basement when they arrived. "Dad, you can't believe what we found." Without waiting for an answer, Ezra continued, "We found the cat burglar." "You found him?" "No, her, at the library." Ezra went on to explain what they had uncovered. Mr. A was amazed. "I'll call Constable Higginbottom right away. He'll be more than happy to hear." "I hope so," Jeremy responded. That evening, Mr. Arrowsmith got a call back from Constable Higginbottom thanking him for the tip. They arrested Kathy Worthing at the library, and when they searched her apartment, they found thousands of pounds or thousands of dollars worth of jewelry. "Constable, I wasn't the one who did the hard work and investigation. It was my son Ezra and Jeremy Lockhart who followed all the chaos. In that case, the police department will give them both a citation for their good work. They'll be very happy about that when I tell them." Half an hour later, Ezra spoke to Jeremy on the phone. "We've solved another mystery and we're getting a citation from the police." "What's a citation?" "It's a certificate from the police department saying we did a good job." "Excellent. The EJ Detective Agency has done it again."